When the world around you gets unstable, there are two basic energies you can adopt. And if you went through trauma as a child, it is going to be tempting for you to get stuck in one of them, and that's self-protection. And as much as we need safety inside and out, we also need growth. That's the second energy. If you have CPTSD and you always favor self-protection, then times of crisis, like we're going through right now, and really just the passage of time, are likely to make your symptoms worse and worse. So what do? I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and in this video I want to illuminate these two choices, self-protection versus growth. And I'm going to show you how to get them into balance so that you can survive and keep getting better no matter what's going on around you, in the world or in your living room. Now, as I'm taping this, we're 3 months into a worldwide lockdown. We're 2 weeks into an intense period of protests. There's helicopters all over, and there's unrest. And I really hope that if you're watching this video many months or years from now, that you're in a more peaceful and just and loving world than we are at this moment. But for people who went through trauma as kids, this is a hard time. And by trauma, I do mean abuse and neglect and exposure to addiction and mental illness, but also trauma is a lot of the stuff that you're seeing or experiencing right now. People killing, attacking, and screaming at each other. People living in fear that violence is always about to break out. People going through what you maybe went through when you were a kid, being dehumanized, locked up, beaten or bullied, stereotyped, scapegoated, or lied about, or blamed for things you didn't do. Getting cast out, excluded, disinvited, banned, unfriended, feeling afraid to express yourself, to be yourself, to question what you were told, just trembling inside at the thought of speaking up or defending other people, or being forced to comply, to conform, or to be silent. Until in the end, you silenced yourself. You shut yourself down. And why? For self-protection. So with what we're going through and witnessing right now, is there anyone watching who isn't feeling all that trauma coming back up? I look around and I see a whole lot of traumatized people. I see dysregulation. That's something traumatized people don't often have control over, because after childhood trauma, getting hurt today can throw us into a brain and nervous system reaction called dysregulation. It's a kind of mental and physical chaos where emotions flare up or sometimes they go numb. And either way, when traumatized and dysregulated people come into contact with a new trauma, and we're coming into contact with so many right now, unhealed people will go off like a grenade. Some will explode outward, and some will explode inward into self-hate and self-harm and self-erasing. Now, each of us in an unrecovered state is kind of a microcosm of what's going on out there. It's a riot or it's a lockdown. We're exploding out or exploding in. And you might find yourself going back and forth between both extremes because that's what we do. Childhood PTSD loves extreme thinking. When you're lost and dysregulated, extreme thinking can provide an anchor. Or it's not really an anchor, it's more like a ball and chain in that you don't fly away like you fear, but the price you pay is you stay stuck. So what I want to show you is a more balanced way to care for these two competing needs within yourself, the need for self-protection and the need for growth. And I'm not going to lie and say, oh, growth, it's the only way to go. We do need growth, but we need self-protection too. So let's look at self-protection and what's good about it. Self-protection is how you step back from turbulence and give yourself space to get your equilibrium. Self-protection is how you set boundaries, how you stay aware of your own limits and don't put yourself into situations where you know it's going to be too much for you. Maybe you stay away from any places where people are yelling or throwing things or hurling words because you know you get so dysregulated that you end up falling into behaviors or moods that'll just turn your life upside down, and you can't solve anything then. Now, maybe you don't have contact with people who have abused you, or you maintain a relationship with them, but you keep it light, and you don't get into long visits or deep conversations. There are situations other people can handle just fine, but sometimes we're not there yet. And for the sake of our continued healing, we protect ourselves. But if we're not also attending to our need for growth, self-protection can turn toxic. It turns into that very thing that traumatizes us, the isolation, the self-silencing, or self-righteously trying to silence or shame other people. Not because they've done something criminal, but because we just can't handle our own reaction to them. Now, this urge to block out or push down other people who make us uncomfortable can go to horrible extremes. It's how wars start. It's how genocide always ends. So self-protection is a good thing that must be balanced by growth. So let's look at growth. Growth is that urge within us to go towards self-examination, to envision who we want to become, how we need to change to get there. Growth means reaching out, asking questions, learning, challenging our assumptions and beliefs, and listening and reading and befriending people with different ideas and experiences. Growth is thinking for ourselves. It's taking action, and it's taking responsibility for ourselves and for the problems in the world that we can help to solve. Now, growth taken to the extreme can become grandiosity, and it can be insensitive to the feelings of other people. And that also can be isolating. All that action can be a way of numbing out for a person with childhood PTSD. It can be a setup for a breakdown. And it's good to take big leaps, but to keep our healing moving forward, there's also a time to pause and remember self-protection, to call to mind who you really are, how you really feel, what your limits are, and at least for right now, to give a little space to get your thinking simpler and clearer. So, self-protection and growth. Self-protection helps us stay measured and steady while we grow and become who we really are. And then the next time you find yourself in a crisis, you handle it differently. You're steadier inside and stronger and wiser. And if you're ever going to help people or change the world, you're going to need to be steady, strong, and wise. So work on that and watch for those people who have those characteristics and how they handle problems, how they resist easy divisions and judgments of other people, how they're able to keep a sense of calm around them even when other people are yelling and screaming, how they seem to naturally emanate a feeling of goodness, and how the people around them seem to soften a little and stand up straighter and become open and willing to approach the problems they're facing with something more real. And that's because calm and goodness are infectious. Now, hate and chaos are infectious too. You got to choose. Calm or chaos, hate or love. And even though in any given day or situation, love may seem weak or irrelevant, or it looks like consent for abuse and injustice, it's not. If you meet hate with hate, you might knock down your opponent that day, but the change you crave never comes. Because it's love that you crave. It's love that can arrest the chaos, even in the pain and rage. That's the one thing that's made real and lasting change over time. You can force the behavior that looks like obedience or justice, but after a day or two, you won't be satisfied. The good feeling that you had for a minute comes up hollow because only love could possibly ever fulfill that thing that your anger actually needs. Not tolerance, but love. Only love from the people who have hurt you and held you down would ever reach the insides of your bones with that sense of true justice and healing, that they would see you with the eyes of love, not only for the goodness in you that's been ignored, but the goodness beyond what you even knew was in there. It would transform everything, wouldn't it? It would make it so much easier to go through life. You couldn't help but feel love right back in that part of you that struggles with that. And you deserve it, to feel it and receive it. You deserved it when you were little, and you deserve it now. We all know in our hearts it needs to be set right. And if it seems like such a faraway dream that this love would ever be given to you or that you'd feel it, I know it seems that way. Maybe you feel cut off with nowhere to even start. You'll want to grasp at things, accusations or sticks or lawsuits. There's a time and a place for those things, but But no stick, no person, no government is powerful enough to just make people be kind and just and loving. And yet, in certain moments, we've experienced that kindness and love. Love grows through a different mechanism. It spreads from one person to another. And just as a little virus you can barely see with a microscope could bring down the world economy, the tiniest of changes inside you, from a tight, shaky, sour little place of isolation to something stronger and more balanced and free between yourself and the world, who you are now and who you will become, your safety and your growth. This shift could be the thing that changes everything. It starts in here. Now, we might feel it and see it in little flashes, and then we just fall back into our old thinking, and that's normal. So you have to be persistent. And if you want my help, I've got something for you. During the next couple of months, I'll be creating and sharing a whole bunch of videos all about healing that one primal injury that comes from childhood trauma, and that's our ability to feel and connect with other people. This is a place of struggle for just about everyone who experienced childhood trauma. And I really want to take some time to teach about that and how vital it is to grow in that area, to be connected. So if you want to get a notification each time I release one of those videos, you can subscribe. If you want to just jump in and start learning and healing your trauma, you can follow links down below, and that shows you my courses and materials. So let's do it, okay? The reason we heal is not just to feel better, it is to become our real selves. And there may be opportunities to use your experiences of suffering and healing to be the change that you want to bring to this world. So I'll see you next week.